And we are welcoming a very special guest to the program right now because there is a publication coming out, a book coming out. It hasn't even hit the shelves yet, but we want to give you heads up on it, give you first information on this. Bill Haglund is here, and he has a book that is entitled Racing Through Times, A History of Automobile Racing in Iowa. And this goes way back, you guys. Way back to the very beginning of automobile racing in the state of Iowa. Bill, first of all, thank you for being here. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Lou. I appreciate it.
And before we get started with talking a little bit of how you put this book together, I want to give people some background about you, because people in racing have known about you and heard you and seen your work for years.
Well, I was involved in racing a lot of years, about 31 actually. All my life, really, if you want to be accurate, my parents took me to my first race when I was 4 years old up at Webster City, and I got hooked right then. I was fortunate when I became older to get involved in motorsports. My first job was with Dave Marcus, who raced in more Daytona 500s than anybody. I was a sports writer in Wausau, Wisconsin, and he hired me to do some marketing and public relations work for him in 1971. And subsequently then I got my NASCAR license and worked on the pit crew for guys like Jim Hurtubise.
Sure.
And, Richard Childress. I changed tires for him one time at Michigan, and some guys like that. And then I became editor of Hawkeye Racing News, which allowed me to travel a lot and go to a lot of different racetracks.
Based out of Vinton, Iowa, correct?
Based out of Vinton, and I was executive secretary of IMCA. Was there when the IMCA Modified was born, and actually wrote a lot of those rules, wrote most of the stock car rules along with a couple other guys in the 90s. So my wife and I then, after I left Hawkeye, we started Mid-States Racing News, which we operated for 4 or 5 years, and I became general manager of a NASCAR track in San Antonio, Texas, and moved away. And after open heart surgery, I had to slow down. Came back to Iowa to be with grandkids.
And then the book, I'm sure the germ of an idea has already started by then.
I actually started writing a book on the history of the old IMCA stock car series 25 years ago. And I have that book. My wife says, "You're not going to write another book." That book is almost complete, but I put it aside to write this one on the history of racing. I've always loved the history. I've had people send me things from all over the country. They say, you know, "Bill, this belongs in Iowa, and I know you'll take care of it." So they've sent me things through the years, and I've kept it. A lot of it's in my mind, but I have a lot of written material through the years, and I tell a lot of stories in there, especially some old stories.
All right, let's take a look at some of the photos and things from here, because this is no small book. How many pages is this book?
616
I was going to say, first
pages.
of all, how can you attack such a huge topic as the history of racing in Iowa?
Okay, look at this one from 1915.
Okay. Right, that's Donaldson was his name, and that's an Emden race car. And he is, I think, the only race ever held in Spirit Lake, August 13th, 1915, and he lost his life in that crash. His 3 sons were there. His 3 sons carried on after Mr. Donaldson died, and they raced at Indianapolis.
Look, we have programs here from the Iowa State Fair from 1919, folks. That's how long we've been racing there.
Why is it so important to write a book like this?
I think, first of all, I think history is important. And I don't think a history of automobile racing, anybody ever tried to tell the story. There's more to it than most people would even imagine. There's more to it than I could put in this book.
Right.
There's Ronald Reagan. He's Ronald Reagan for HO Radio, wasn't it? Yeah.
With Gus Schrader, and Gus Schrader was probably the greatest race car driver from Iowa. He died in a crash at Shreveport, Louisiana on October 22nd, 1941. And everybody says that was to be his last race. Because he was in his 46, I think, and then racing was banned for 4 years during World War II.
That has to be the fairgrounds there, isn't it?
That is Jimmy Wilburn and Frankie Lupto at the start of a race in 1950 at the Iowa State Fair. That's from Rockwell City in 1951. There again, Johnny Rutherford in that picture.
Oh, really?
From 1963.
That's Ernie Durr there. I recognize him.
That's Ernie Durr in one of his first Pontiacs.
Yeah. There's Ramo and Terry Ryan.
That's interesting. They were on the pole. They made up the front row of the Daytona 500 that year, 1976. It's the only time an Iowa driver has ever been on the pole, and there was Iowa drivers on the front row. That picture that we just saw was 1967 at the Clay County Fair where they all got tangled up. That's from Boone. There's another picture from Rockwell City in 1951.
And it gets more and more current. So you start back in the early 1900s and you come all the way up through 2014.
2014, it through that season. And I know there were a lot of things that happened in 2015, but I had to stop somewhere. I could keep going and going.
You just could have kept going and going, right?
No, there's Daryl.
Daryl DeFrance. Yeah.
Yeah, but there it is again. Now the book is being printed this past weekend. The book was at press, correct?
I should have it late next week.
Okay.
Before the 4th of December.
Wonderful. And so you're going to be out making sure people know how to get this book. Get us a copy of it, please, Bill. And how can people get copies of the book?
Well, we're going to have a book signing at Otho. Marty Pringle has a little museum up there on the 12th. The 5th, I'm going to be at a racer's auction in Farley over by Dubuque.
But keep us informed.
Yes.
You'll keep us informed, and we'll post where it's going to be available. Perfect for holiday gift giving.
They could contact me at bhaglund13@msn.com, and I could give them the information. That's the easiest thing.
And we'll keep that here as well.
All right.
Wonderful. Bill, great book. You know,
Thank you.
600 pages, more than 600 pages, more than 500 photos in the book. If you know a race fan from Iowa, you need to get this thing. Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Good to see you, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.